The classroom door hissed open at 054, 17 minutes before Standard Academy schedule. Professor Marcus Webb froze mid-step, his coffee suspended halfway to his lips. Someone was already inside. A small figure sat hunched in the back corner, pale blue skin almost luminous in the pre-dawn darkness. Vesali, the Kirtani exchange student who never spoke, never raised her hand, never met anyone's eyes. Her shoulders trembled. Marcus set down his coffee with deliberate care. 3 months teaching interspecies relations, and he learned one critical rule. Sudden movements meant danger. The Kirtani were a client species of the sovereignty, their homeworld conquered 2 generations ago. This girl was the first of her kind allowed off-world in decades. Vesali? His voice came out softer than intended. What's wrong? She didn't look up, her breathing hitched, rapid and shallow. Marcus noticed the datapad clutched in her 4-fingered hands, its screen cracked straight across. He moved closer, each step measured. Hey, you're safe here. I broke it. Her voice was barely audible, spoken in heavily accented Standard. The assignment. I tried, but I broke. It's just a datapad. We have spares. No. She finally lifted her head, and Marcus saw the moisture tracking down her face. Not tears. Something clearer, almost crystalline. You don't understand. They'll know. They always know. The hairs on Marcus's neck prickled. Who will know? Vesali's eyes darted toward the window. Outside, orbital station Gamma rotated slowly against the starfield, home to 43 species and 12,000 students. Somewhere in that darkness, someone was watching. I wasn't supposed to fail, she whispered. Marcus pulled up a chair, sitting at her level. Protocol said maintain professional distance. Protocol could go to hell. You didn't fail anything. The assignment isn't due until next week. Her hands tightened on the broken datapad. Everything else. Before Marcus could respond, his wrist, comb, chirped. Emergency channel. His stomach dropped. A security alert. Diplomatic incident imminent. All faculty report station status. Vesali's face went absolutely white, or rather, her blue skin paled to an almost gray shade. They're here. Who's here? Standard procedure when a capital ship docked, but no capital ships were scheduled. Marcus's comm chirped again, this time with a message that made his blood freeze. QI-10 Imperial Cruiser requesting immediate audience. Station commander complying. I'm sorry. Vesali stood, her movements mechanical. I'm so sorry, Professor Webb. I tried to be normal. I tried to just learn, but I'm not good at pretending. Pretending what? The classroom door opened again. This time 5 figures entered in perfect formation. Kirtani, like Vesali, but taller, armored, moving with the fluid precision of trained killers. Their ceremonial weapons hummed with barely contained energy. The lead guard, her armor marked with symbols Marcus didn't recognize, scanned the room with eyes that missed nothing. When her gaze fell on Vesali, something flickered across her expression. Not anger. Something worse. Disappointment. Vesali Koreshnatel. The guard's voice carried absolute authority. You will come with us. Please, Vesali said, and now she was crying openly, those strange crystalline tears catching the light. Please, he didn't know. None of them knew. The guard's attention shifted to Marcus. He forced himself to stand to meet those alien eyes without flinching.
What's going on?
She's my student. She's under Academy protection. Your student, the guard said slowly, is third daughter of the Kirtani sovereignty, heir designate to the Solar Throne. And you, Professor Webb, have been teaching classified Imperial intelligence protocols to a member of the royal family without proper security clearance. The room tilted. Marcus grabbed the desk for support. That's impossible. She is exactly what she appears to be, another voice said from the doorway. This one made everyone freeze. The newcomer was Kirtani, but where the guards wore armor, she wore robes that seemed to absorb light itself. Her presence filled the room like a physical weight. Every guard dropped to one knee instantly. Vesali made a sound somewhere between a sob and a whimper. Mother. The Kirtani queen surveyed the classroom with the calm of someone who commanded star systems. Her gaze lingered on the broken datapad, the scattered homework materials, the crude, human-made chairs. Finally, she looked at Marcus. Professor Marcus Webb, graduate of Luna Academy, specialization in cultural integration, awarded the Sterling Cross for bravery during the Proxima food riots. She spoke as if reading from a file, 47 years old. No family, lives alone. Spends weekends volunteering at the Refugee Processing Center. I have watched you teach my daughter for 93 days. The Queen moved forward, her robes whispering against the floor. 93 days of recorded lectures, assignments, and interactions. I have observed every kindness, every patience, every moment you treated her as merely another student struggling with new concepts. Marcus's mind raced. 93 days. Since the semester began. You've been spying on me? I've been evaluating you. The Queen stopped beside Vesali, resting one hand on her daughter's shoulder. The girl trembled like a leaf. My daughter was sent here on a mission of critical importance to my people. She was to observe human teaching methods, report on institutional weaknesses, and assess whether your species could be trusted with expanded diplomatic access. The weight of those words settled like ice in Marcus's chest. She's a spy. She was a spy. The Queen's expression shifted, something almost like sadness crossing her features. Until she forgot her mission. Until she became so absorbed in simply being a student that she stopped filing reports. Until she broke protocol by genuinely seeking help rather than maintaining her cover. Vesali's crystalline tears fell faster. I failed you. No. The Queen's voice carried an edge now. You succeeded in a way I did not anticipate. She turned back to Marcus, and he saw something in her eyes he hadn't expected. Respect. Do you know what my daughter wrote in her last report before she stopped sending them? She wrote, Professor Webb sees me. Not my species, not my status, not what I represent. He sees a student who struggles with mathematics and excels at literature. He sees someone worth his time. And then she wrote 7 words that changed everything. The Queen paused. She wrote, I think he would teach anyone. Outside, the station continued its rotation, oblivious to the scene unfolding in classroom 7B. Your species confuses us, Professor Webb, the Queen continued. You wage wars over resources, yet your teachers spend personal funds on students' supplies. You maintain strict borders, yet you volunteer to help those who cross them. You claim to value strength, yet you show kindness to the weak without expecting reward. My analysts cannot reconcile these contradictions. Marcus found his voice. Maybe they're not contradictions. Maybe they're just human. Perhaps. The Queen's hand tightened on Vesali's shoulder. My daughter's mission was to determine if humans could be allies or only subjects. She was to be my eyes and ears, reporting everything she learned. Instead, she learned to trust. To ask for help. To break a datapad and believe the solution was apologizing rather than hiding the failure. I don't understand what you want from me. The Queen smiled then, a gesture that looked wrong on her alien features, but somehow genuine. I want you to continue doing exactly what you have been doing, teaching, seeing students, showing that kindness and competence need not be mutually exclusive. She paused, and I want to know why. Truly. My intelligence reports suggest you could have advanced your career significantly by reporting her unusual behavior. The Academy would have rewarded such vigilance. Instead, you arrived early, brought extra materials, stayed late to answer questions. You treated an alien spy with the same care you show your human students. Why? Marcus looked at Vesali, still trembling, still crying those strange crystalline tears. He thought about all the students he'd taught over the years. The refugees who barely spoke standard. The colony kids who'd never seen Earth. The orphans. The traumatized. The lost. He thought about why he'd become a teacher in the first place. Because she needed help, he said simply. That's all that mattered. The Queen studied him for a long moment. Then she did something that made every guard tense. She bowed. Not deeply, but unmistakably, a Kirtani royal, acknowledging a human teacher. My daughter will continue her studies here, she announced. Under your instruction. But no longer as a spy, she looked at Vesali, as a genuine student. With one condition. Here it comes, Marcus thought. The catch. The demand. What condition? That you teach her as you have been. Nothing more, nothing less. And that you allow me to continue observing. The Queen's smile widened slightly. I find I am learning as much as she is. Vesali looked up at her mother, confusion and hope warring on her face. You're not taking me home? Home is where one learns and grows, the Queen said. It seems you have found such a place. I would not deprive you of it. She turned back to Marcus. or the sovereignty of what you might become. The guard shifted, uncertain. Their queen was making decisions that would reshape diplomatic policy, and she was doing it in a human classroom at dawn. Marcus felt the weight of history pressing down on this moment. One wrong word could shatter everything. "I don't know what she'll become," he said carefully. "I just know she's struggling with quadratic equations and excelling at comparative literature. Everything else is beyond my pay grade." The queen laughed, an actual laugh, musical and strange. "That, Professor Webb, is precisely why you are the perfect teacher for her. You see the student, not the symbol." She gestured to her guards. "We will leave now. Visali, you have class in 11 minutes. I suggest you compose yourself." As the queen turned to go, Marcus found himself speaking without planning. "Your Majesty, if you're going to keep watching, maybe attend office hours instead? Open to all parents. Thursdays at 1500. The silence that followed was absolute. Every Kartani in the room stared at him, as if he'd suggested the queen juggle plasma grenades. But the queen's expression shifted into something that might have been amusement. "A curious proposal. I shall consider it." She inclined her head once more. "Teach well, Professor Webb. The future may depend upon it more than you know." Then she was gone, her guards flowing out behind her like a tide. The door hissed shut. Marcus and Visali stood alone in the classroom, the morning light beginning to filter through the windows. "I didn't mean to cause trouble," Visali said quietly. Marcus picked up his coffee, somehow still warm, and took a long sip. "You didn't cause trouble. You asked for help. That's what students are supposed to do." He paused. "Though next time, maybe mention if you're royalty would help with my lesson planning." She laughed, a watery sound, and wiped at her crystalline tears. "For seeing me?" He smiled. "Thank you for being worth seeing. Now, about those quadratic equations." As other students began filing in for first period, chattering about the massive Cortani ship docked at the station, Marcus Webb returned to his desk and pulled up the day's lesson plan. Nothing had changed. Everything had changed. Somewhere above them, a queen watched her daughter settle into her seat, pull out a fresh datapad, and prepare to learn. And in that moment, neither war nor peace hung in the balance. Just a student, a teacher, and the simple act of education. Sometimes, Marcus reflected, that was enough to change the world. Or in this case, an empire. The lesson began. Months passed in the careful rhythm of semesters. Visali's quadratic equations improved gradually, moving from hopeless to merely struggling. Her literature analyses remained exceptional, earning praise even from Professor Hawthorne, who never praised anyone. Other students grew accustomed to her presence, the initial curiosity fading into routine acceptance. But Marcus noticed the details others missed. The way Visali tensed whenever ships docked, how she carefully positioned herself to observe all entrances. The slight pause before she spoke, as if translating thoughts through multiple filters. Old habits died hard, even for reformed spies. What he couldn't see was the observation continuing above. Aboard the Kiratani vessel Eternal Judgment, Queen Soravel Notel watched her daughter's education unfold across holographic displays. Every lecture was recorded, analyzed, cross-referenced with sovereignty intelligence databases. Her advisors prepared daily reports highlighting potential security risks, cultural contamination concerns, diplomatic implications. She ignored most of them. Instead, she watched Marcus Webb arrive early every Tuesday to help struggling students, watched him stay late on Thursdays for office hours that anyone could attend, watched him spend personal credits on extra learning materials, never asking for reimbursement. Her analysts flagged these behaviors as statistically anomalous. She flagged them as significant. "Your Majesty," her chief intelligence officer ventured during one briefing, "the human continues demonstrating inconsistent priorities." "He sacrifices resources for no measurable gain." "No gain you can measure," Soravel corrected. "Continue monitoring." The officer's scales rippled with unease. "We've identified 17 other human educators exhibiting similar patterns. Should we expand surveillance?" "No, we focus on this one. He is teaching my daughter something our best tutors could not." "What, Majesty?" Soravel gestured at the display, where Marcus was explaining historical context to a class of mixed-species students. How to be ordinary. How to exist without the weight of expectation crushing every action. She She smiles more in his classroom than she has in her entire life at court. Among Kirtani, such admission from a queen was unprecedented. Royalty existed to bear weight, not shed it. But Soravale had learned that humans held different philosophies, and watching her daughter thrive under Marcus's instruction, she wondered if perhaps her species had something to learn. The semester reached its midpoint during First Contact Week, an annual academy tradition where students presented research on species encounters throughout history. Vesali had chosen the Kirtani Sovereignty War, the conquest that had subjugated her people 2 generations prior. Marcus reviewed her outline with growing concern. This is going to be controversial. It's truth. Vesali's voice was steady. My people resisted. We lost. We became subjects. These are facts. Facts can be weapons, especially here, now, with your mother watching. So I'll teach her what I've learned. Vesali met his eyes. You taught me that truth matters more than comfort. Was that lesson conditional? Marcus leaned back in his chair, caught in his own philosophy. No. But truth without wisdom can cause damage. Then, help me be wise. They worked through lunch, refining arguments, softening nothing but clarifying everything. When Vesali finally presented to the class 3 days later, Marcus watched from the back, aware that somewhere above a queen was also watching. Vesali stood before her peers, humans, centaurians, Karesh, even 2 sovereignty citizens, and spoke with quiet precision. My people believed we were strong enough to resist. We were wrong. Strength without unity is weakness. Pride without perspective is suicide. We learned this through conquest, through subjugation, through becoming examples of what happens when smaller species challenge the established order. Do you resent the sovereignty? I resent what we lost, but I understand why we lost it. We chose war over negotiation. We chose pride over survival. The sovereignty gave us a choice and we chose wrong. She paused. But I'm learning that choices can be revised. That loss doesn't have to be permanent. That even conquered peoples can find new ways to be strong. The classroom was silent. Then Marcus started clapping, slow, deliberate. Others joined until the applause filled the room. Vesali's skin flushed darker blue, embarrassment or pride or some combination. After class, she approached his desk. Was it acceptable? It was brave. Marcus pulled up his datapad, showing her the grade, and well argued. But Vesali, yes, your mother is going to have questions. Vesali smiled, not the nervous expression he'd seen that first morning, but something genuine and unafraid. I have questions for her, too. That evening, Marcus's comm chimed with an unexpected message. Request for private meeting. Thursday, 1500 hours. Attend alone. Dash Queen Soravale Noddle. He stared at the message, heart hammering. This was it. The moment where diplomatic relations either strengthened or shattered. He'd been teaching the 3rd daughter of the Kirtani sovereignty to think critically, to question established narratives, to value truth over comfort. And now her mother wanted a private audience. Thursday arrived, shrouded in tension. Marcus informed the academy administration, who immediately assigned a security detail. He refused them. The queen had requested he attend alone, and he'd learned that respecting cultural protocols mattered in ways security couldn't address. The meeting wasn't aboard the Eternal Judgment. Instead, a Kirtani shuttle transported him to a private observation deck on the station's outer ring. The room was small, dominated by a massive window showing the planet below. Earth, blue and familiar, and suddenly very far away. Queen Soravale waited alone, her ceremonial robes replaced by simpler attire that somehow made her more imposing. Without guards, without the trappings of office, she was simply a mother considering the man teaching her daughter. Professor Webb, thank you for coming. Marcus bowed, hoping he'd gotten the angle right. Your Majesty. Thank you for the invitation. She gestured to chairs positioned facing the window. I dislike conversations conducted standing. They encourage aggression and posturing. They sat. Earth rotated slowly beneath them. I watched Vesali's presentation, the Queen began, 17 times. My analysts have prepared reports on its implications for sovereignty-Kirtani relations, potential impacts on subject species morale, projected responses from the Imperial Council. She paused. Would you like to know their conclusions? If you wish to share them, Majesty. They concluded that my daughter has been radicalized by human educational philosophies, that she's been taught to question authority and challenge established narratives in ways that threaten social stability. They recommend immediate extraction and remedial cultural conditioning. Marcus's throat went dry. And you? What do you conclude? Soravel turned to face him directly. I conclude that my daughter gave the most honest assessment of our history I have ever heard from a Kartani, that she demonstrated critical thinking without becoming disrespectful,
that she spoke truth without sacrificing wisdom.
The Queen's expression was unreadable. I conclude that you have been doing exactly what I asked, teaching her, and that your methods are far more effective than anything we possess. She's an exceptional student. She was an adequate spy. Soravel's correction was gentle but firm. You made her exceptional, and you did it by treating her as neither threat nor trophy, but simply as someone worth educating. Do you understand how rare that is?
It should be standard.
But isn't. The Queen looked back at Earth. Your planet confuses my people, Professor Webb. You are simultaneously the most generous and most violent species we've encountered. You build schools in war zones. You teach children while cities burn. You save enemies and execute allies. There is no logical consistency to human behavior. Marcus considered his words carefully. Maybe consistency isn't the goal. Maybe adaptability is. Explain. We teach because children need education regardless of circumstance. We save enemies because life has value regardless of affiliation. We execute allies when betrayal demands justice regardless of past loyalty. We adapt our responses to context rather than following fixed protocols. He met her eyes. We're messy, contradictory, sometimes hypocritical. But we're also flexible in ways that rigid consistency doesn't allow. Soravel was quiet for a long moment. The sovereignty has existed for 6,000 years on principles of order, hierarchy, and consistency. We have conquered 47 species. We maintain stability across 3 sectors, all through rigorous adherence to established protocols. And yet you sent your daughter to learn from humans? And yet I sent my daughter to learn from humans, she agreed, because our protocols are failing. Subject species grow restless. Alliance partners question our methods. Internal dissent increases despite our best efforts at cultural conditioning. We maintain order through force, but force alone is proving insufficient. She turned to Marcus. We need something else. I need to understand what. The weight of that admission settled between them, a queen admitting weakness.
A conqueror admitting doubt.
Marcus chose his next words with extreme care. What you're looking for isn't a system or a protocol, it's a philosophy. The idea that people, all people, regardless of species or status, have inherent worth, that education isn't about creating obedient subjects but developing capable individuals. That strength comes from empowering others, not controlling them. She became so focused on learning that she forgot to spy. She prioritized her education over her duty. Soravel's voice held no accusation, only observation. In sovereignty terms, she failed. She grew. She changed. She became more than she was. Marcus leaned forward. Your Majesty, you didn't send her here just to gather intelligence. If that was your only goal, you had countless better options. You sent her here to see if change was possible. To test whether a Kurtani raised with one set of values could adapt to another. She proved change is possible, Marcus continued. But change is threatening. It means admitting current methods are insufficient. It means vulnerability and uncertainty. It means parents watching their children become something they don't fully understand. He paused. Is that what scares you? Not that she failed her mission, but that she succeeded in becoming something beyond your control? Soravel's scales rippled. A Kartani expression Marcus had learned indicated deep emotional response. I am queen of the sovereignty, empress of 3 sectors, commander of fleets that could reduce your planet to ash. And yes, Professor Webb, I am terrified by what my daughter is becoming. Not because she is wrong, but because she is right, and I do not know how to follow where she leads. The admission hung in the space between them, raw and honest. Marcus spoke gently. Then maybe don't lead. Maybe learn alongside her. You set up observation protocols to watch her education. Have you considered participating instead? Well, you're suggesting I attend classes? I'm suggesting you attend office hours. Thursday at 1500, open to all parents. Marcus smiled slightly. You asked for an invitation once. I'm extending it formally now. Soravel stared at him as if he'd suggested she abdicate the throne. Then, slowly, something shifted in her expression. If I attend, my guards will insist on security protocols. Advanced sweeps, position verification, threat assessment. If you attend as a parent concerned about her daughter's education, you can leave the guards on the ship. The academy has security. They're quite good. You ask me to trust human security over my own. I ask you to trust that a school is a school, not a battlefield, that sometimes the bravest thing a leader can do is appear without armor. Marcus held her gaze. Your daughter does it every day. She sits in my classroom surrounded by species that fought her people. She asks questions that reveal ignorance. She makes mistakes in front of peers. And she does it without guards, without weapons, without the protections of her status. If she can be that brave, can't you? Below, Earth continued its rotation, oblivious to the conversation reshaping interstellar relations. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet. I watched her cry that morning, when you found her with the broken datapad. I watched my daughter, trained since birth to show no weakness, to maintain perfect composure, break down in front of a human teacher. And I watched you sit beside her, not fix the problem immediately, not demand explanations.
Sit, present.
Patient. Soravel turned back. Do you know what I felt in that moment? Marcus shook his head. Envy, because in 3 months you had earned more of her trust than I had gained in 17 years. She believed you would help her without judgment, without condition, without using her vulnerability as leverage. The Queen's expression was complex. Layers of emotion Marcus couldn't fully parse. You gave her something I never could, the freedom to fail safely. It's not too late. Failure for me means war, instability, the death of thousands. I cannot afford the luxury of safe failure. Then start small, attend office hours, ask about her grades. Show interest in her education without making it about state security or diplomatic implications. Just be a mother concerned about her daughter's welfare. Marcus stood meeting her at the window. The rest can wait. This moment can't. Then she nodded, a gesture so slight Marcus almost missed it. I will attend, alone. She looked at him. This terrifies me more than battle, Professor Webb. That means you're doing it right. The shuttle returned Marcus to the academy with more questions than answers swirling in his mind. He'd just convinced an alien queen to attend parent office hours. The diplomatic implications were staggering. The security concerns were legitimate. The potential for disaster was enormous. He also couldn't stop smiling. Thursday arrived with unexpected normalcy. Classes proceeded on schedule. Students complained about assignments with typical adolescent dramatics. The station rotated with mechanical precision. Only Marcus's elevated heart rate indicated anything unusual was pending. 1,500 hours arrived. Marcus sat at his desk reviewing student files. The first parent arrived at 15:05. Mrs. Chen. Concerned about her son's declining mathematics performance, they discussed study strategies, potential tutoring options, environmental factors affecting focus. Standard conference. At 15:27, as Mrs. Chen left, a Kirtani figure appeared in the doorway. No guards. No ceremonial robes. Just Queen Soravel in simple attire, looking remarkably uncertain. Marcus stood. Your Majesty. Please come in, said Madam. She entered slowly, taking in the classroom with fresh eyes. The student artwork on walls. The stacked data pads waiting for grading. The coffee ring stains on Marcus's desk that cleaning bots never quite removed. This is where her daughter spent her days. Thank you for coming, Marcus said, gesturing to the parent chair. I know this is unusual. Soravel sat, her movements careful. I have negotiated treaties affecting billions. I have commanded fleets in combat. I have sentenced traitors to execution. Yet sitting in this chair, I find myself at a loss for words. That's normal. Most parents feel that way. Marcus pulled up Sally's file on his datapad. Let's start simple. How do you think she's doing? The Queen blinked, clearly expecting a different opening. I observe her lessons regularly. She seems engaged. Her literature analyses are sophisticated. Her mathematical progress is slower but steady. She's a strong analytical thinker but struggles with abstract numerical concepts. I've paired her with a study group that's helping. Marcus pulled up sample assignments. These are her recent essays. I'd like your opinion on them. Soravel took the datapad, reading with visible concentration. Marcus waited, letting the silence work. This was the crucial moment. Would she engage as a parent or retreat to her role as queen? This analysis of the Terran-Centaurian First Contact protocols is exceptional, Soravel said finally. She identifies nuances. Even my diplomatic corps missed. The way she connects cultural misunderstandings to broader communication patterns, the Queen looked up. How did you teach her to think like this? I didn't. I just gave her frameworks for analysis and let her apply them. The insights are hers. Marcus leaned forward. Your Majesty, Vesali is genuinely gifted at understanding cultural contexts and translating between different frameworks. She sees patterns others miss. Has she always had this ability? I don't know. The admission clearly pained Sorvel. She was trained in espionage techniques from age 7. Observation, analysis, behavioral prediction. But this feels different. More genuine, because she's not performing analysis as a mission. She's doing it because she finds it interesting.
Passion changes everything.
Marcus pulled up another file. She's also been helping other students. 3 different classmates have told me she explained concepts in ways that finally made sense to them. She's becoming a teacher herself. Sorvel's scales rippled. She helps others, voluntarily? She stays after class to work with anyone who asks. No assignment requires it. She just does it. Marcus paused. Your Majesty, when you sent her here, what did you hope she would become? The Queen was quiet for a long time. Outside, the station's afternoon shift began, students flooding corridors with typical chaos. Inside the small office, 2 people sat with a question neither had fully answered. I hoped she would learn to see humans clearly, Sorvel said finally. To understand your strengths and weaknesses without the distortion of propaganda or prejudice. To report accurate intelligence that would help the sovereignty make informed decisions about future relations with your species. And now? Now I hope she learns to see herself clearly, to understand her own strengths, without the distortion of protocol or expectation, to make informed decisions about who she wants to become. Sorvel met his eyes. You've changed what I hoped for, Professor Webb. That is a remarkable and terrifying gift. She changed what I hoped for, too. I used to just hope my students would pass exams and graduate. Now I hope they'll change the world, or at least their corner of it. That is a dangerous hope. All worthwhile hopes are dangerous. That's what makes them valuable. They talked for another 30 minutes, shifting from educational philosophy to specific assignments. To Vesali's social integration, Sorvel asked questions with increasing comfort, her initial uncertainty fading into genuine parental engagement. When their time ended, she stood with visible reluctance. Same time next week? Marcus asked. The Queen nodded. Same time next week. And Professor Webb, thank you for treating my daughter as a student, for treating me as a parent, for remembering that beneath titles and protocols, we are simply people trying to do our best. That's all any of us can do, Majesty. Our best, and hope it's enough. After she left, Marcus sat in the empty classroom watching the station's rotation carry them toward night cycle. Somewhere above, an alien queen was processing everything she'd learned. Somewhere below, her daughter was probably in the library studying for tomorrow's exam. And somewhere in between, the galaxy continued spinning, unaware that small moments in quiet classrooms could reshape the future. His calm chimed with a message from Vesali. Professor Webb, thank you for whatever you said to my mother. She just sent me a message asking about my literature assignment. She's never asked about my homework before. Versus, Marcus typed back, I didn't say anything she didn't already want to hear. See you in class tomorrow. The semester continued, each week bringing new revelations and challenges. Vesali's confidence grew visibly. Her presentations became sharper, her questions more pointed, her willingness to challenge even Marcus's assertions more frequent, exactly what good education should produce. Sorvel attended office hours every Thursday without fail. Initially, their conversations focused strictly on Vesali's academic progress, but gradually they expanded into broader discussions about education, culture, the challenges of raising children in uncertain times. Marcus found himself looking forward to these meetings, watching a queen slowly transform into a mother. 6 weeks into their regular meetings, Vesali submitted an essay comparing Kirtani hierarchical governance to human democratic systems. It was brilliant, thorough, and diplomatically explosive. She argued that while hierarchies provided stability, they stifled innovation, that while democracies created chaos, they enabled adaptation, that both systems had merits and failures, and perhaps some hybrid approach might transcend both. Marcus knew showing this to Sorvel would create problems. He also knew hiding it would betray the trust they'd built, so he did what he always did, told the truth, and hoped wisdom would follow. Your Majesty, he said at their next meeting, I need to show you something. It's going to be uncomfortable. Her scales darkened. A Kirtani stress response Marcus had learned to recognize. When she finished, she set the device down with deliberate care. My daughter is advocating for fundamental restructuring of sovereignty governance. Your daughter is exploring ideas through academic analysis. There's a difference. Is there? Soravel's voice was sharp. This essay, if published, would be considered sedition. Advocating for democratic reforms in a hierarchical empire is treason. Good thing we're in a classroom, not an empire. Marcus kept his tone level. Your Majesty, I need to ask, do you want me to censor her thinking? To redirect her when she questions established systems? Because I can do that. But it would make me a propagandist, not a teacher. Not that.
From what? Ideas?
Growth? The possibility that she might imagine better systems than currently exist? Marcus leaned forward.
You sent her here to learn. This is learning.
Messy, uncomfortable, sometimes dangerous learning, but learning nonetheless. Soravel stood, pacing to the window. The gesture reminded Marcus of their first private meeting, a queen seeking perspective in Earth's rotation. If she returns home with these ideas, the Imperial Council will see her as compromised. They will question her loyalty, her fitness to eventually inherit. They may see her as a threat rather than an asset. Then don't send her home. Not yet. She cannot remain here forever. She has responsibilities. A position. A future that was determined before her birth. A future she didn't choose. Don't you think she deserves a say in who she becomes? Royalty does not have the luxury of choice. The outburst echoed in the small office. Soravel immediately closed her eyes, regaining composure through visible effort. When she spoke again, her voice was controlled but strained. Forgive me. That was inappropriate.
Which is always appropriate in my classroom.
Marcus gestured to the chair. Please, let's talk about this. You don't understand what you're asking. Visali is third daughter. Her role is defined by centuries of tradition. She will serve the sovereignty as her siblings do, as I do, as every member of the royal line has done since our people achieved interstellar capability.
Personal desires are irrelevant.
Are they? Or is that just what you've been taught? The question landed like a physical blow. Soravel stared at him, scales rippling through multiple colors Marcus had never seen. You dare. I dare because you keep coming here. Because every Thursday you sit in that chair and engage with ideas that contradict everything your culture teaches. Because despite every reason to maintain distance, you've chosen connection. You've chosen to be Visali's mother, not just her queen. Marcus softened his tone. You're changing too, Majesty. And that terrifies you as much as her changes do. Silence stretched between them, taut as a wire. Then Soravel's shoulders sagged, exhaustion breaking through regal bearing. I attended the Imperial Academy. I graduated with highest honors. I commanded my first warship at 23. I ascended to queen at 37 after my predecessor's assassination. I have never questioned my path, my duty, my purpose. She looked at him with something like desperation. And now I watch my daughter discover joy in learning, friendship in study groups, satisfaction in helping others, and I wonder, what did I miss? What did I sacrifice without even knowing there were alternatives? Marcus felt the weight of that question, the grief buried in its core. It's not too late. To learn, to grow, to choose differently. Queen of the sovereignty, I cannot simply choose differently. Why not? The simplicity of the question seemed to stagger her. Because I have responsibilities. An empire to govern, millions depending on my leadership, centuries of tradition to uphold, and doing all that while growing as a person would somehow make you less effective? It would make me unpredictable, weak, vulnerable to those who would exploit any perceived instability. Or it would make you adaptable, strong enough to admit when change is needed, secure enough to evolve without losing yourself. Marcus pulled up his datapad. You know what Visali wrote in her latest journal entry? We do reflective writing every Friday, she wrote. I used to think strength meant never changing, never admitting doubt, never questioning established wisdom. Now I think that's not strength, it's fragility. Real strength is changing when change is needed, admitting doubt when certainty would be easier, questioning wisdom when it no longer serves. I think my mother is starting to understand this. I hope so. I want her to be truly strong, not just rigidly powerful. Tears, actual crystalline tears like the ones he'd first seen on Visali, tracked down Soravel's face. The Queen of the Sovereignty cried in a human teacher's office, and Marcus had the sense that he was witnessing something unprecedented. She sees me. Sorabel whispered. Not my title, not my position, not what I represent. She sees me struggling and wants to help. When did that happen? When did my daughter start caring about my well-being instead of fearing my judgment? Probably around the same time you started caring about her happiness instead of just her success. They sat in that truth for a long moment. Outside, the station continued its rotation, carrying its thousands of inhabitants through their daily routines, unaware that in Classroom 7B's adjacent office, two people were dismantling assumptions that had governed their lives. Finally, Sorabel spoke. What do I do, Professor Webb? How do I reconcile being queen with being human? You're not human, Majesty. How do I reconcile duty with growth? Tradition with change? The role I was born to with the person I might become? Marcus considered carefully. Start by accepting that reconciliation might not be the goal. Maybe it's integration. Maybe you don't reconcile competing demands. You hold them simultaneously. You can be queen and mother, leader and learner, upholder of tradition and agent of change. Humans do it all the time. Badly. Often. But we keep trying. How? By making small choices aligned with who you want to be. By showing up. By being present even when it's uncomfortable. By loving people more than you fear judgment. He smiled. By attending office hours every Thursday and actually caring about the answers. Sorabel wiped her tears with a gesture that looked almost human. I need time. To think. To process. To figure out what any of this means for my people. Take all the time you need. Visali's education is ongoing. So is yours. The Queen stood, composure mostly restored. Same time next week? Same time next week? After she left, Marcus sat in the gathering darkness, station lights beginning their evening cycle. His comm showed messages from the Academy administration requesting updates on sensitive diplomatic meetings. He ignored them. Some things transcended institutional oversight. Instead, he pulled up Vesali's essay, The One, advocating for hybrid governance systems. It was remarkable work, genuinely insightful, properly researched. It was also dangerous in ways she probably didn't fully understand. Publishing it could endanger her. Suppressing it would betray everything he taught. The teacher's eternal dilemma, how to foster growth while ensuring safety. He decided to do what he always did when facing impossible choices. Ask the student. Tomorrow he'd discuss publication implications with Vesali. She deserved to understand the stakes of her own ideas. She deserved agency in decisions affecting her future. That was what real education looked like. Not safe. Not controlled. Just honest and trusting students with the truth. The next morning, Marcus arrived early as usual, and as had become her habit, Vesali was already there, studying in the pre-dawn quiet. Morning, Professor. Morning. Got a minute to discuss your governance essay? She looked up, reading his expression with the observational skills that made her such a strong student. This is going to be complicated, isn't it? Extremely. But you deserve to know the implications of your work before deciding what to do with it. They talked for an hour, exploring the political ramifications, potential personal costs, possible benefits to broader discourse. Vesali listened with the same focused attention she brought to every lesson. When Marcus finished, she sat quietly for several minutes. If I publish this, I'm essentially declaring that the sovereignty's current governance model is insufficient. That could be seen as betrayal. Yes. If I don't publish it, I'm censoring my own thinking to avoid political consequences. That would be betraying everything you've taught me about intellectual honesty. Also, yes. So, either way, I'm betraying something. Welcome to adulthood, where every meaningful choice involves sacrifice, and wisdom is just picking which betrayal you can live with. Vesali smiled despite the heavy topic. That's remarkably depressing, Professor Webb. Now what do you want to do? She considered, then pulled up her data pad. I want to show it to my mother first.
Not for permission.
For conversation. She's been changing, too. Maybe she'll surprise me. Marcus felt a surge of pride. That's a wise choice. When will you talk to her? Tonight. She invited me to dinner aboard the Eternal Judgment. First time in months. Vesali's expression was complex. I think she wants to discuss something important. This seems relevant. Keep me posted? Can you post it on with her? Always. That evening, while Vesali dined with her mother, Marcus attended a faculty meeting discussing the upcoming semester transition. His mind wasn't present. He kept wondering how the conversation aboard the royal vessel was progressing. whether Soravel would react with maternal pride or royal concern. He got his answer at 2300 hours when his comm chimed with a priority message. Urgent request for meeting Professor Webb, attend Imperial Shuttle Bay. 7 immediately, Royal Guard Commander. Marcus's stomach dropped. Immediate summons from Royal Guards rarely meant good news. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the designated bay, mind racing through possibilities. Had Visali's essay triggered a crisis? Had he finally crossed a line with Soravel? Was this the moment where diplomatic relations shattered? The shuttle bay was empty except for 6 royal guards in full ceremonial armor. Their leader stepped forward, posture rigid. Professor Marcus Webb, you are requested to attend the Queen. Immediately. Is Vesali all right? You are requested to attend the Queen immediately. The guard's repetition was its own answer. He didn't know or couldn't say. The shuttle ride to the Eternal Judgment was the longest 15 minutes of Marcus's life. The Royal Guards maintained absolute silence. Their discipline impenetrable. Marcus tried to prepare for every scenario, from diplomatic incident to personal tragedy. The ship's interior was magnificent. Soaring corridors decorated with art from 47 conquered species, each piece a testament to the sovereignty's reach. The guards led him through empty passages, their footsteps echoing. No crew visible, no witnesses to whatever was about to happen. They stopped at ornate doors marked with symbols Marcus recognized as indicating the royal family's private quarters. The lead guard gestured, enter, alone. Marcus opened the door and stepped into a scene he never could have imagined. The room was clearly personal, walls covered in holographic star charts, shelves holding artifacts from countless worlds, furniture that managed to be both elegant and comfortable. Visali sat on a cushioned bench, her crystalline tears flowing freely. Soravel stood by a massive window showing the station rotating against the stars, her posture rigid. Neither was hurt. Both were clearly devastated. Your Majesty? Visali? What's wrong? Soravel turned, and Marcus saw tears on her face too. Professor Webb, thank you for coming. I apologize for the dramatic summons. I wasn't certain. She stopped, visibly struggling with words. Visali spoke instead, her voice thick with emotion. I showed her my essay. We talked about governance and tradition and what change might look like, and then Mother told me something I never knew. Marcus waited. Sensing this revelation needed space, Soravel moved to sit beside her daughter, the gesture tentative but genuine. When I was Visali's age, I wrote an essay too, proposing that the sovereignty should establish educational exchange programs with subject species, that we should teach them our ways while learning theirs, that conquest without cultural integration was unsustainable. The Queen's laugh was bitter. My father, the previous king, destroyed every copy. He told me such ideas were weakness, that questioning established policy was betrayal, that my role was to enforce tradition, not reimagine it. You never mentioned this? Visali whispered. I was ashamed. I thought he was right, that my youthful idealism was foolish. So I buried those ideas and became the queen he wanted. Strong, unbending, unquestioning. Soravel looked at Marcus. And then I watched you teach my daughter that questions are strength. That changes wisdom. That growth is not weakness, but essential vitality. And I realized I've been enforcing the same cycle of suppression that was inflicted on me. The weight of that realization hung in the air. I don't want to be that parent, Soravel continued. I don't want Visali to spend 30 years ashamed of her own ideas. I don't want her to become rigid and unchanging because I demanded it. She took her daughter's hand. So I need help, from both of you. What kind of help? I want to support Visali's essay publication. I want to defend her ideas publicly. But I don't know how. The Imperial Council will see this as sedition. They'll demand consequences. They may even move to strip Visali of her inheritance rights. And I don't know how to protect her while also honoring her right to intellectual honesty. Why does she need protection? Marcus asked. Why not just let her publish it and face whatever consequences come? Because she's 17. Because she has her whole life ahead of her. Because one essay shouldn't destroy her future. Mother. Visali's voice was steady despite her tears. What if this isn't about destroying my future? What if it's about building the future I actually want? Soravel turned to her daughter, confusion clear. I've been thinking about this, Visali continued. About what I want to be. And I don't think I want to be queen. I don't think I want to rule an empire. I think I want to teach, to help species understand each other, to build bridges instead of enforcing hierarchies. She looked at Marcus. Professor Webb showed me that education changes everything, that one teacher can reshape how someone sees the universe. I want to do that. Not reign over others, but help them see themselves clearly. Soravel's scales rippled through multiple colors. Shock, grief, fear, and something that might have been relief. You're abdicating. I'm choosing. For the first time in my life, I'm actually choosing what I want instead of accepting what was decided for me. Visali's tears fell faster, but her voice remained strong. And I'm terrified, and I'm probably making a mistake, but it's my mistake, my choice. My future. Finally, Soravel spoke, her voice barely audible. I don't know if I can allow this.
Allow it?
Visali's surprise was evident. Mother, I'm not asking permission. I'm informing you of my decision. You're 17. You don't understand what you're giving up. I'm giving up a predetermined path I never wanted, a role I never chose, a future that would make me miserable. What I'm gaining is agency, choice, the possibility of genuine happiness. Visali stood, facing her mother directly. You taught me that sometimes duty requires sacrifice. Well, I'm sacrificing the duty you wanted for me in favor of the purpose I've found for myself. Mother and daughter faced each other, generations of tradition colliding with individual choice. Marcus stayed quiet, knowing this wasn't his moment to intervene. Soravel's composure finally cracked completely. She pulled Visali into an embrace that was thoroughly unroyal and utterly parental. I'm so proud of you, she sobbed. And so terrified. And so angry at myself for creating a system where you had to choose between duty and happiness. You should never have had to make this choice. But I did. And I'm making it, and I need you to support me even if you don't agree. They held each other while Marcus discreetly studied the star charts on the wall, giving them privacy in their grief and joy and fear. He'd wondered what it looked like when someone chose themselves over expectation. Now he knew. It looked painful and beautiful and absolutely necessary. When they finally separated, Soravel turned to Marcus with tear-streaked face. Professor Webb, my daughter wants to become a teacher. She'll need education beyond what the academy provides. Training in pedagogy, cultural sensitivity, species-specific learning modalities. Do you know institutions that could provide such education? There are several excellent programs. Luna Academy's cross-cultural education track is exceptional. The Centaurian Institute for Universal Learning is top tier. Even here, the station offers advanced certification programs for students interested in teaching. She'll need references, recommendations, support navigating human educational systems. If she wants them very scenario. You're going to help me do this? Actually help me, not just tolerate it. I'm going to help you do this, even though it terrifies me. Even though the Imperial Council will question my judgment. Even though it means admitting my own path might not be the only valid one. She smiled through her tears. Because you taught me something in these months, my brilliant daughter. You taught me that growth matters more than stability, that change matters more than tradition, that individuals matter more than systems, and if I truly believe that, then I must support you choosing your own path. What about the sovereignty? What about your other duties? The sovereignty will adapt or it won't. Either way, your future should not be sacrificed to maintain a system that may already be failing. Soravel straightened, royal bearing returning even through her tears. And perhaps your choice will inspire necessary changes. Perhaps watching my daughter choose authenticity over expectation will remind others that alternatives exist. Marcus cleared his throat gently. Your Majesty, if I may. This conversation is remarkable, but we should discuss practical next steps. Visali's essay will still be controversial. Her choice to pursue teaching instead of royal succession will raise questions. We need to manage how this information becomes public. Soravel nodded, wiping her tears. What do you suggest? Let Visali publish her essay through normal academic channels. Don't suppress it, but don't make it a royal proclamation either. Let it stand on its own merits as student work. Then, separately, announce her intention to pursue teaching as a career. Frame it as expanding royal family engagement with education rather than abandoning duty. Spin control, Soravel said with slight distaste. Honest framing, Marcus corrected. She's not abandoning anything. She's choosing a different form of service. Teaching is service. Helping species understand each other serves the sovereignty's long-term interests better than one more royal sitting on a ceremonial throne. You make it sound so noble. It is noble. Teaching is the most important work there is. Shaping minds, building bridges, creating understanding where ignorance breeds conflict. You're not stepping down from importance. You're stepping up to purpose. The three of them spent the next hour outlining a plan. Visali would finish her current semester while preparing her essay for academic publication. Soravel would inform the Imperial Council of her daughter's choice, framing it as an innovative approach to royal service. Marcus would help identify appropriate teaching programs and provide references when the time came. As Marcus prepared to leave, Soravel stopped him. "Professor Webb, you've done far more than teach my daughter academics. You've shown us both that alternatives exist, that growth is possible. That change doesn't have to mean destruction." She paused. "I don't know how to thank you for that. Keep attending office hours. Keep being present. Keep growing. That's thanks enough." The shuttle returned Marcus to the station at 020 hours. Exhausted but energized, he'd witnessed something unprecedented. A queen supporting her daughter's choice to abandon royal succession in favor of teaching. The implications were staggering. More immediately, he had a student who needed support navigating an entirely new future, and a parent who was learning alongside her child, and a classroom full of other students who deserved the same care and attention. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tonight had brought miracles. The semester's final weeks passed in a blur of activity. Visali's essay was published in the Journal of Interspecies Governance Studies and immediately generated controversy. Some readers praised its innovative thinking. Others condemned it as naive idealism. The Imperial Council summoned Soravel for multiple emergency sessions. But the essay stayed published. Visali's authorship remained uncensored. And slowly, gradually, the conversation shifted from whether she should have written it to what her ideas meant for future policy. Soravel attended every Thursday office hour without fail, watching her daughter navigate praise and criticism with growing confidence. The Queen herself began participating in broader academic discussions, her perspective as a practicing ruler adding depth to theoretical debates. And Marcus continued teaching, showing up early, staying late, treating each student as someone worth seeing, because that was what teachers did. They created space for growth, supported emerging potential, and trusted that small acts of care could reshape futures. On the final day of semester, as students filed out after finishing their exams, Visali approached Marcus's desk. "Professor Webb, can I ask you something?" "Always. Why did you help me that first morning? When you found me crying with the broken datapad, you didn't know who I was. You didn't know what it would lead to. You just helped. Why?" Marcus considered the question, then smiled. "Because you needed help. That's all that mattered. Everything else, the politics, the implications, the consequences, all that came later. In that moment, you were just a student who was scared and overwhelmed. And I'm a teacher. Helping scared, overwhelmed students is what I do." Visali's eyes glistened with crystalline tears. "I'm going to miss this classroom." "You're not leaving yet? You've got another semester before graduation." "I know. But things are changing." "I'm changing. It feels like an ending. Endings and beginnings are usually the same moment, just viewed from different angles." Marcus stood, moving to the window where Earth rotated below. "You came here as a spy. You're leaving as someone who knows what she wants to be. That's not an ending. That's transformation." "I'm terrified." "Good. That means you're doing something important. Easy choices don't require courage. You're choosing the hard path, the one that matters." Visali joined him at the window. Together they watched the planet turn, blue and beautiful and full of possibilities. "Thank you, Professor Webb, for seeing me, for teaching me, for showing me that I could be more than what was expected." "Thank you for being worth seeing, for being teachable, for becoming exactly who you needed to be." They stood in comfortable silence as the classroom emptied, the semester ending not with grand ceremony, but with quiet understanding between teacher and student. Exactly as it should be. Later that evening, Marcus received a final message from Soravel. "Professor Webb, the Imperial Council has approved Visali's choice to pursue teaching, though not without resistance. They see it as unconventional, but ultimately aligned with expanding royal influence through cultural channels. I see it as my daughter choosing happiness over duty. Both views are true. Both matter. Thank you for teaching me that contradictions can coexist, that growth and tradition need not be enemies, that a queen can learn as much as her subjects, Same time next semester. My younger daughter will be attending the academy. I suspect she'll also benefit from a teacher who sees students rather than status. -S. Marcus smiled and typed his response. Your Majesty, same time next semester. Send me her class schedule and learning preferences, and keep attending office hours. You're becoming quite good at this parent thing. -M. Outside, the station continued its rotation. Inside classroom 7B, a teacher prepared for tomorrow's lessons, knowing that somewhere above, a queen was doing the same. Both learning, both growing, both becoming more than they were. And in the space between them, a student, no longer a spy, not yet a teacher, but perfectly herself, planned her future with courage earned through transformation. The observation protocol had ended months ago. What remained was simpler and more profound. Connection, growth, and the simple act of one person seeing another clearly. Sometimes that was enough to change everything.